So today we're going to talk a little bit about injury prevention, injury recovery, and in most cases what we consider kind of minor tweaks, minor pains, things like that. A lot of that can be attributed to inflammation. So the first thing that we want to know, okay, what is inflammation? And inflammation is the body's natural, or it's part of the body's natural healing process. Why this can become a problem, and one of the easiest ways I've had physical therapists kind of talking to them about it and just making it real easy to understand is there's all these compounds that are trying to get to the injury site and help heal it. The problem is the water molecules and the white blood cells that go to the injury site are really big, and they prevent these other compounds from coming in and getting to that injury site and helping heal. So you kind of get this swelling, this backlog, right? It's like a highway, and you only have so much room to get there. And we have these big white blood cells, these big water molecules blocking it. A lot of these other properties that are important for healing can't get there. And this is why chronic inflammation can be such a bad thing. And left untreated, inflammation can then kind of develop into tendinitis, some of these terms that we're more familiar with that are harder to recover from. So the first key is kind of reducing our inflammation. And it's important to understand inflammation is a normal part of the body's recovery process. When you do strength training, you're breaking down the muscle, you're going to have inflammation, but you want to heal from that inflammation as fast as possible. You don't want it to become chronic. And that's why two of the most important things you can do to reduce chronic inflammation is staying hydrated, as well as eating a diet that's non-inflammatory. And so we've gone into a lot of that in the past. I've put out articles on what are anti-inflammatory foods. But again, right, a lot of vegetables, a lot of color in your diet. Lean protein is great. Fish with their healthy fats. We want to stay away from a lot of those processed foods. Kind of things that I would say if we're paying attention to our diet that would be more common to most of us. So when we break it down more into kind of the injury process and the inflammation process, there's kind of two things we can approach. We can kind of help facilitate the recovery process, and we can also kind of try and do what we can do to prevent inflammation in the first place. So we're going to talk recovery real quickly. So one of the number one things that I like to do to help kind of reduce that inflammation, especially if it's kind of what you would consider a tweak or an injury, is ice massage. So I'm going to step off screen here real quick and grab my little Dixie cup of ice water, or a Dixie cup of ice. So this is what I really like to do, is grab your, and you can do this with an ice cube. I prefer to do it in a Dixie cup because I can hold on to it, but you kind of just peel off the layers as you go. All right, real easy. All right, now I've got a nice little handy cube of ice, and kind of wherever I'm feeling that inflammation, I'm just going to kind of rub it out. All right, really try and massage with the ice. And there's kind of two factors at play here. And I guess I should also say, about 5 to 10 minutes at the most. Right, once the skin is numb to the touch, all right, then you can stop with the ice massage. But the first part is the cold of the ice. And why that's important is not just the cold, but after it's cold, we want to heat it back up. And what that does is when it's cold, the veins kind of constrict, okay, and then when they heat up, they expand, right? They're trying to get all that blood flow. So we increase, basically we're helping the recovery process by increasing blood flow to the affected site there. The second piece, not just putting the cold on it, but actually massaging it out, is that massage is actually kind of pushing some of that swelling away from the injury site. So you're actually manually manipulating and kind of pushing out some of those inflammatory markers that are kind of blocking up and preventing some more of those compounds from getting in and healing. So ice massage, great option. Another option to help with the recovery is just your standard self-myofascial release or massage. And a lot of us could go pay, or some people prefer, right, professional athletes, they're going to go get manual therapy done by a licensed professional, all right? But poor man's massage, right? One of the most familiar tools that we're used to is the foam roller. Okay, foam roller, lacrosse ball. If you're really muscular, right, get a barbell out and roll out the affected area. Okay. But what we're doing with the foam rolling is helping the recovery process. It's helping drain waste from the cells, as well as breaking up adhesions that may be preventing proper range of motion. So part of the foam rolling is helping facilitate recovery. Part of it is helping with prevention, and getting proper movement and restoring proper range of motion, proper movement patterns. Again, that's such a huge thing. Another piece. Another recovery tool I have seen people get awesome results from using this is your compression floss. All right, a ton of different ways to do this. All right, let's say that my knee is giving me some irritation. All right, what I'm going to do is just wrap this up really nice and tight. And again, there's many different methods to using the compression floss here. Again, you don't want to cut off circulation, but I am tying it. I mean, it is really tight on here. So I'm getting real good compression, okay? I tuck it underneath, and then I'll spend about 2 to 3 minutes, okay? If it was my knee that's giving me a little bit of issues, right, I'd maybe do, 3 sets of 20 body weight squats. I maybe would throw in some lunges, all right? I'm doing it, and again, not comfortable, but I'm also not cutting off circulation. All right, then when I'm done, of course, just take it off. Don't leave it on there any longer than you have to. All right, and kind of the principles that are at work here with the floss is that we are, again, pushing swelling away from the affected area. All right, a lot of times why the recovery process is slow at joints like the knees, the elbows, these joints don't receive a lot of blood flow. When I release that band, right, because of the compression, I release the band, a lot of increased blood flow to the joint area. So that's going to help increase the recovery rate, as well as a principle called joint gapping, which basically is just that we're getting the correct spacing at the joint. So again, we're helping to increase the proper and natural range of motion. So those are all really good recovery tools. All right, but what you want to do even before, this is kind of like, okay, you've already had an issue. What caused the issue in the first place? And a real popular term out there are overuse injuries. And I like to use running as a great example of this, right? People say, oh, you can't run because you run too much, you're going to get these overuse injuries, you're start getting these tweaks and pains. It's not always necessarily the running that's causing the problem. The problem is your mechanics may be slightly off. And now that you do that repeated motion over and over and over with poor mechanics, now here's where we get some of that inflammation showing up. Right? So a lot of times in the running case, if you go see a stride coach, you get your stride down perfectly, we see these injuries go away. Because it's not the miles that you're putting on, it's the miles that you're putting on with bad form. Basically the same thing inside the gym, right? Squatting's not bad for your knees, but squatting with poor form, that's horrible for your knees, right? So it's kind of that idea. And what I like to use to help get proper range of motion, not only learning the correct movement, but static stretches are such a huge piece of the puzzle, right? So if I'm, let's just use a common example. Let's say I have really poor ankle flexibility. So every time I get into a squat, my arches of my feet want to collapse, my knees want to cave in because my ankle flexibility is horrible. The number one thing I can do to help with that is do a static stretch for my calves, right? For my ankle, I do this, right? So I repeated doing long-term stretching rather than putting in 2 minutes on each leg. I'm doing this, 3 to 4 times a week. All of a sudden now my ankle flexibility is good. I can go into the bottom of the squat. I have good mobility. I can do a squat with perfect form, and now I'm not going to get those overuse injuries because I'm doing the exercise as the body intended. I'm doing it with good form, good mechanics. So static stretches are a huge piece. All right, and that you should have a professional look and do some movement assessments with you so you can identify, okay, where am I tight? What areas do I need to focus on improving my mobility? So a lot of information, but really that's just a brief overview. So if you have questions, again, you should talk to a strength coach. So a physical therapist works as well, someone that can kind of take these drills and individualize them for you so that you can keep pushing yourself and seeing awesome gains without those injuries that can hold us back.